Let me tell you folks about what happened in Maple Grove Estates. That picture-perfect little slice of American suburbia where the lawns are always emerald green and the smiles are just a little too perfect. You know the type. White picket fences, kids riding bikes on weekends, and a big HOA sign promising harmony and community values. But underneath all that Instagram-worthy charm, it was a pressure cooker of rules, gossip, and one woman who thought she was the law. The day Marcus Sullivan pulled up with his moving truck, I was out watering my roses next door. He seemed like a decent guy. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, the kind of calm eyes you get after a lifetime of tough jobs. Retired K-9 sergeant from the city police department. And riding shotgun was Titan, his massive German Shepherd partner of 15 years. Beautiful dog, but big. Real big. You could tell they had a bond like brothers in arms, the kind that comes from dodging bullets together. Marcus just wanted a quiet retirement. His wife had passed a couple years back from cancer, and he figured this neighborhood would be the fresh start he needed. Peaceful walks with Titan, maybe join the weekend barbecues, leave the bad guys behind. Poor guy had no idea what he was walking into. He chose Maple Grove because it looked so orderly on the website, all those neat rows of colonial houses with matching shutters. He thought the HOA was just there to keep the grass cut. Boy, was he wrong. Within 2 hours, Karen Fitzgerald descended like a hawk in yoga pants and a pastel cardigan. As president of the Maple Grove HOA, she took her job very seriously. Too seriously. She marched right up to his porch with her ever-present clipboard, that tight little smile plastered on her face that never quite reached her eyes. "Mr. Sullivan, welcome to our lovely community," she cooed, her voice dripping with fake honey. "I do hope you've had a chance to review our covenants. Particularly Section 14B regarding pets. We have very specific guidelines about large breeds, noise ordinances, and leash requirements. We like to keep things civilized here." Marcus stayed polite, the way a man who's seen real danger does. He handed her Titan's service papers and commendations, the ones for tracking down missing kids and busting drug rings that made most people tear up. "Titan's retired now, ma'am. He's a certified hero dog. Never had an incident in his life." Karen barely glanced at the documents before tapping her pen like she was keeping score in a game only she understood. How wonderful. "But rules are rules, even for heroes, Mr. Sullivan. We can't make exceptions, or the whole neighborhood falls apart. I trust you'll comply." She leaned in, lowering her voice like she was sharing state secrets. "Some of our residents get nervous around certain types of dogs. You understand." From that moment, the complaints started rolling in like clockwork. First, it was a notice about Titan's excessive size, potentially lowering property values. Then a $50 fine for potential noise disturbance, even though the dog barely woofed at the mailman. Then came the anonymous letters about how the dog was intimidating the neighborhood kids, the same kids who were sneaking Titan treats every afternoon when Karen wasn't looking. I watched Marcus handle it with more patience than I ever could. He'd smile, nod, pay the petty fines without a word, and go about his business. But I could see the wheels turning in his head. He started keeping a detailed log of every interaction, every letter, every phone call from the HOA office. Smart man. Meanwhile, the neighborhood gossip mill was already in full swing. At the community pool, you'd hear whispers. "Did you see that big dog? Karen says it's a menace. I heard he was a police dog. Probably aggressive." Karen was the master at planting seeds of doubt while maintaining her concerned citizen act. But here's the thing about Titan. That dog had instincts honed from years on the streets. During their daily walks, he'd slow down every single time they passed Karen's pristine colonial house with its perfect rose bushes. His ears would perk, nose working the air like he was back on duty sniffing for something hidden. Marcus noticed it too, but chalked it up to the cat or something harmless. Little did he know the storm was just beginning. The tension was building slow, like a storm you can feel in the air before the first drop of rain. And Karen? She was just getting started with her little power games, convinced that her clipboard made her untouchable. Weeks turned into months, and the harassment didn't let up. It got worse, more personal, more ridiculous. Marcus tried to keep his head down, but Karen made sure every resident knew the new guy with the dangerous dog was bending the rules. She'd show up at his door at least twice a week, clipboard in hand, lips pursed like she'd tasted something sour. Mr. Sullivan, I'm afraid we've had another complaint. Section 7C clearly states that all pets must be contained so as not to disturb the visual harmony of the streetscape. Titan's presence in your front yard is simply unsightly. Marcus would lean against the doorframe, arms crossed, and give her that calm cop stare. Ma'am, Titan's in a fully fenced yard. The only thing unsightly around here is the way you keep inventing violations. Karen's face would flush that perfect shade of HOA outrage. Inventing? I am protecting property values for everyone, including you. If you can't follow simple rules, perhaps this community isn't the right fit. She'd spin on her heel and storm off, already drafting another certified letter. The fines piled up: $60 for excessive shedding on the sidewalk, $80 for failure to trim the doghouse to approved height. Marcus paid everyone without complaint, but you could see the quiet anger building behind his eyes. He wasn't broke, but it was the principle. This was supposed to be his peaceful retirement, a place to heal after losing his wife. And here was this woman treating him like a criminal for owning a hero dog. The gossip spread like wildfire through the barbecue pits and backyard fences. Neighbors who used to wave now crossed the street when they saw Titan. Little Madison from 2 houses down started crying every time she saw the dog, coached by her mom, who'd had a conversation with Karen. Marcus overheard the whispers at the annual HOA meeting. She's just doing her job. Someone has to enforce standards. Karen stood at the podium in her power suit, smiling like a queen addressing her subjects. We must all do our part to maintain the integrity of Maple Grove Estates. No exceptions, no favoritism. But the hypocrisy was thick enough to choke on. Karen's own cat, Mr. Whiskers, roamed free, leaving gifts on everyone's lawns. Her holiday lights stayed up until July, breaking the exact rule she'd find old Mrs. Johnson for last year. Nobody dared call her on it. She had the power, the board, the mailing list. She was the HOA, and she loved reminding everyone. Marcus stayed silent, but he was watching. He started walking Titan earlier in the morning, noting how the dog grew more fixated on Karen's backyard shed every single day. Titan would stop dead, hackles slightly raised, nose locked on that little wooden structure behind her perfect colonial. Marcus felt the old cop instincts kicking in. Something wasn't right. Around the neighborhood, small things had been disappearing for months. Kids' bikes left in driveways, lawnmowers from open garages, even Mrs. Johnson's heirloom bird bath. Cops came, took reports, found nothing. Everyone blamed teenagers from the next town over. Marcus didn't buy it. He started keeping a second log, this one about the thefts and Titan's strange behavior. The tension was thickening. You could feel it at block parties, forced smiles, side-eye glances at Marcus's house. Karen walked around like she owned the place, waving her clipboard like a scepter. Community standards, everyone. We all have to sacrifice a little for the greater good. Greater good, my foot. She just loved the control, the fear in people's eyes when she knocked. Marcus never raised his voice, never argued back beyond a quiet, sarcastic, funny how the rules only seemed to apply to everyone except the one holding the clipboard. Karen would huff and walk away, but you could see the crack in her perfect facade. She was starting to feel threatened. And Titan, his alerts were getting stronger, more insistent. The dog knew something we didn't. The storm was about to break. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Marcus and Titan were halfway down Willow Street when the dog went rigid. Hackles up, eyes burning with that old canine focus. For the first time in retirement, Titan ignored the heel command completely. He bolted like a bullet, straight through Karen's white picket fence, rounding the house and slamming into a perfect sit right in front of her backyard shed. Nose dead center on the padlock. Passive alert. The same one that had found fugitives in attics and missing kids in storage units. Marcus's heart pounded as he hustled after him. Titan heel. But the dog stayed locked. Karen came flying out onto her deck in that signature peach robe, hair wild, eyes wide with panic. Get that monster off my property. I'm calling 911 right now. Trespassing, harassment, the works. She waved her phone like a weapon, voice shrill enough to wake the dead. Marcus kept his voice steady, years of de-escalation training kicking in. Karen, I'm sorry for the intrusion, but Titan has never broken position like this in his life. When he alerts like that, He's found something. Something worth finding. Her face turned purple. Are you accusing me? Threatening me? I'll have that dog seized and euthanized by sundown. She dialed 911, sobbing into the phone, embellishing every detail, Titan lunging, snarling, me deliberately sicking him on her. Oscar-worthy performance. Officers Martinez and Chun rolled up minutes later, lights flashing. They recognized Marcus instantly. Sergeant Sullivan? Titan. What's going on? Marcus explained calmly. Karen lost it. I don't care if he sniffed out Bin Laden. This is my property. That beast is trespassing. That's when my neighbor Tom strolled over, phone in hand. Officers, you're going to want to see this. He hit play on his backyard security camera footage. Night vision, crystal clear. Karen in her peach robe, hauling a kid's mountain bike into the shed at 2 a.m. Another clip showed her wrestling a hose reel and planters. Then 2 patio chairs everyone recognized from the Johnson's place. Martinez didn't blink. Ma'am, between this video and the K9 alert, we've got probable cause. Open the shed. Karen's world started to crumble right there on her perfect deck. You can't. This is illegal. I'll have your jobs. But Chun was already radioing for backup and bolt cutters. The twist hit everyone like a freight train. The queen of the HOA, the woman who fined us for 1 blade of grass out of place, was the thief we'd all been blaming on outsiders. The bolt cutters snapped that padlock with a sound like a judge's gavel. The door swung open and the smell hit us first. Old metal, grass clippings, and guilt. Bikes piled like firewood. Patio sets stacked neatly. Tools lined up like soldiers. Planters, grills, even misses. Johnson's bird bath. Everything the neighborhood had lost over the last year, packed away like Karen was running her own private warehouse. But the real jaw-dropper was the pegboard on the far wall. Dozens of labeled keys hanging in perfect rows, each tagged with a house number in Karen's flawless handwriting. Garage doors, side gates, master keys. She had access to every single home in Maple Grove Estates. Martinez let out a low whistle. Well, damn. The cuffs clicked on with that sweet metallic sound. Karen started babbling. It's not what you think. I was keeping everything safe. People leave things out. It's my duty as HOA president. The more she talked, the wilder it got. I was protecting property values. You all should thank me. Chin just read her rights and marched her to the cruiser while the neighbors poured out onto the sidewalks, wide-eyed. The queen bee, the woman who'd lorded her clipboard over us for years, was loaded into the back seat, still protesting. This is a witch hunt. I'll sue everyone. Marcus stood there with Titan at his side, the dog's tail finally starting to wag slow and satisfied. Old habits. The officers hauled out box after box of evidence. The investigation would later tally over $50,000 in stolen goods. But the master keys? That was the part that made everyone's skin crawl. She hadn't just been stealing. She'd been sneaking into our homes whenever she felt like it, all under the guise of inspections. Karen's perfect facade cracked wide open in those flashing lights. The woman who preached rules are rules had been breaking every one behind our backs. The hypocrisy was almost beautiful in its ugliness. Neighbors who'd been too scared to speak up before started sharing their own stories. Surprise finds, sneaky inspections, threats over paint colors. We all thought she was just petty. Nobody dreamed she'd been robbing us blind the whole time. The cruiser rolled away and the whole neighborhood seemed to exhale. Titan thumped his tail against Marcus's leg like he knew the job was done. Word spread faster than Karen's complaint letters ever did. Turns out everyone had a Karen story. The time she fined a veteran for an American flag that was too large, the anonymous reports that always traced back to her. We thought she was just a control freak. We had no idea she was a full-blown criminal hiding behind community standards. The full investigation painted an even uglier picture. Karen had been using those master keys to case houses, timing when people were away, then helping herself. She sold some stuff online, kept the rest like trophies. The judge set her bail at $100,000 and reminded the courtroom the maximum was 15 years. You should have seen her face when that number landed. The same woman who once told Marcus rules are rules, now begging for mercy. In the end, Karen Fitzgerald traded her clipboard for an orange jumpsuit. The HOA board dissolved in the scandal, new elections were called, and suddenly people were actually talking to each other instead of spying. Folks lingered outside longer, waved more freely, didn't jump when the phone rang with another violation notice. The air felt lighter, like the weight of all those ridiculous rules had finally lifted. Marcus and Titan still walk the same route every morning. Titan doesn't pause at that house anymore. The shed is gone, torn down by the new owners. Marcus told me over coffee last week, "You know, I moved here for peace." Never expected a dog to deliver justice instead. I laughed and raised my mug. Good dogs and good neighbors always win in the end. So let me ask you, folks, when is it okay to fight back against the bully with the clipboard? Does community standards mean anything when the enforcer is the one breaking every rule? If you've ever tangled with an HOA Karen or watched power go to someone's head, drop your stories in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me, what would you have done if your dog pointed straight at the queen bee's secret stash? Because in my book, good dogs, good evidence, and a little patience always come out on top. Justice tastes pretty sweet when it's served with a side of handcuffs.